So you're playing Genshin, you're doing some 10 pulls, and you get 5-star Wriothesley. Now, what do you get with Wriothesley besides the person that allows Sejuani to harass prisoners? Well, Wriothesley is a catalyst-wielding cryo user, and in this video, we're going to look at the basics of Wriothesley. Now, it's been a little while since I've been on camera. I have been streaming again, so come by and join the streams if you want to see the shenanigans that go on, like me wearing a primo outfit and a Kazuha wig and doing domains blindfolded, because that was fun. Now, Wriothesley, just like Hazo, is a male catalyst user, which means by definition, he has to punch. So his normal attacks are going to do punching cryo damage. He's not going to do physical damage unless we get into like the shenanigans with like eye perception, all that stuff, which we're not. So he's going to be doing cryo damage on his normal attacks, and they're going to have this great animation of him punching the enemies. Now, if you do his charge attack, he's going to kind of do this uppercut, which is going to still do cryo damage. Now, his skill is not going to do any damage whatsoever. Whenever you use his skill, it's not going to matter how close you are to the enemy. It's not going to matter anything. It's not going to do an instance of cryo damage. What it is going to do, though, is it's going to empower his normal attacks as long as you have over 60% HP, because each time you do a normal attack, it is going to drain his HP, empowering his normal attacks. Now, once you go below 60% HP, as long as you're still in the form that his skill gives you, then you're going to notice this little red aura, I'm going to call it aura, around Wriothesley. That means if you do a charged attack, it is going to heal him. It's going to be an empowered charge attack. It's going to do more damage, and it's going to heal him for a certain amount of his HP. So you are able to fluctuate his HP up and down consistently on his own, which lends into artifacts that we're going to talk about a little bit later. Now, the red aura empowered charge attack does have to hit an enemy for it to heal. If you have the red aura but you don't hit an enemy, it will not heal Wriothesley. So you need to make sure that you're hitting an enemy with that red aura around him. Now, this is going to be his main source of damage. It's going to come from his normal attacks. So he is going to be spending a lot of time on field, but you do need to make sure that you're working in that empowered charge attack to heal him back up or run him with a healer. So that way you can constantly keep his HP fluctuating up and down, getting those empowered normal attacks. That is going to be the large majority of his damage. So you're basically going to be using his skill and then his normal attacks to then drain his HP. And then once you get the red aura, charge attack to heal him back up, normal attacks back down, charge attack back up. Over and over and over again, always using his skill to give him that empowered stuff as soon as it's available. Now, his burst is simply going to be kind of like a Yaku's, where it's going to be several instances of cryo damage in an AoE, right? He's going to don that giant gauntlet and punchy punch into the enemies, hitting enemies in an AoE, dealing several instances of cryo damage. That's really it. It doesn't have anything to do with the fluctuation of the HP. It's not going to do anything for his normal attacks. It is simply another instance of cryo damage. Now, if you do go look at his talents, his passives, it's simply going to be what I've already explained with how his HP is going to fluctuate and give the empowered normal attacks. All of that comes from his passives. And his second passive will give him an attack buff whenever his HP increases or decreases. So this is just straight. Both of these are going to be what is causing that HP fluctuation once you've used his skill. That's all that these talents are really doing. Now, this particular team in this trial is going to be a melt team, where we're going to be using Benny and Xiangling to kind of allow Wriothesley to do a lot of melt reactions. You can either have Xiangling doing the melt reactions or Wriothesley doing the melt reactions. You kind of have to figure out your timing for which one you want which. I liked having Wriothesley get the melts off of the enemies that are having pyro applied to them from Xiangling. And honestly, this is a very, very good team for him that is very, very free to play friendly. You can actually run this team even with Sucrose very, very well. Now, the only thing that I will say with this is that having Benny on here will kind of keep Wriothesley healed up enough to where you won't be able to use that empowered charge attack, but you'll still be able to keep the fluctuation of his HP going constant. And that HP fluctuation is very, very important for his best artifact set. So let's go look at artifacts. Now, of course, he is going to be using Marshmallow Hunter as his best. Is going to increase his normal and charge attack damage, which, as we talked about, is going to be his main source of damage. But it's also going to give him crit rate stacks whenever you have HP fluctuation, which he can trigger on his own. So you can get a free 36% crit rate on Wriothesley just from this artifact set. So this is a very, very good. This is going to be his best in slot artifact set. You do have some other ones where if you're going to be running him in like a freeze team, then you can run something like Blizzard Strayer, which is actually going to give him more crit rate, Then Marshmallow Hunter. It's going to give him an increase in his cryo damage, which is great because that's all he does. And then if the enemy has cryo applied to them, it's going to increase crit rate by 20%. If they're frozen, then it's going to increase it by 20% more. And if you have him in a team with another cryo user with cryo resonance, then you're going to get another 15% crit rate. That is 55% crit rate on him before we even get into the stats of those artifacts. So this is going to be another really, really good set for him. And then of course you can run something like 4P Shimenawa. This is going to make it to where you're not going to be able to use his burst as often. It's going to give him an attack buff. Then it's going to buff his normal and charged and plunging attacks as long as you have some energy on your burst to sacrifice to the Shimenawa gods that will then buff your normal and charge and plunging attacks. So this is going to decrease the amount of time that you'll be able to use his burst, but it will increase his normal and his charge attacks. So this can also be a very, very good artifact set for him. On all three of these sets, the main stats are going to be an attack sands, it's going to be a cryo goblet, and then it's going to be a crit rate or crit damage circlet, most likely being crit damage if you're running Marshmallow or Blizzard, maybe getting to a crit rate if you are going to be running Shim. And I believe in some instances you might be able to run an EM, Sands, or Goblet if you are doing melts, but that's going to start getting more into like the nitpickiness of it, right? Your standard build is going to be attack in the Cryo Goblet. Now for weapons, you do have a couple of different options. Of course, you do have his signature weapon, which is going to give him some crit rate, and then it's going to increase his attack, and then it's going to give him some damage bonus whenever you have HP fluctuation in normal and charge attacks. Now, if you don't have a signature, you do have a couple different options, one of which is going to be Skyward Atlas, which is a standard weapon banner weapon, meaning that if you've lost a 50-50 on a weapon banner, or if you just get this on standard, then you could have Skyward Atlas. Now, this one's not going to be super, super great. It's much more going to be just like a stack book for him, where that increase in attack is going to be very, very good. And then a little bit of the elemental damage bonus as well. You also do have Sacred Prayer, which is going to be another standard weapon. So you could have lost to this one as well. It's going to get a crit rate. And then it's going to be a little bit better in the passive. It's going to increase his movement speed. And then it's going to increase his elemental damage bonus the longer that you're on the field with Wriothesley. So as long as you kind of set everything up and then you go to him, then you should be able to get a couple of these stacks on him to increase his elemental damage bonus. I would actually say that this is going to be better than Skyward Atlas. For some 4-star weapons, you do have something like the Widsith, which is actually going to be a phenomenal weapon to use on him, especially in a melt team, not as much on a freeze team because of how the Widsith works. You're going to gain 1 of 3. You're going to get crit damage, but then in the passive, you're going to get 1 of 3 buffs whenever you take the field, either an attack bonus, which is going to be good on a freeze or a melt team, an elemental damage bonus, which is going to be good on a freeze or a melt team, and then EM, which is only going to be good on the melt team, not so much the freeze team. So this is going to be much more viable in the melt team, not as much in the freeze team. You can still do it on the freeze team, but it's going to be a 2/3 of the time. You're going to have something good 1/3 of the time. You might not have what you want. You do, of course, have Flowing Purity, which is going to be the Natlan craftable weapon, which is going to give him an attack buff, and then it's going to give him elemental damage bonus once you've cleared the Bond of Life. I would recommend more so running a healer with Flowing Purity to kind of help clear that Bond of Life quicker. Getting the elemental damage bonus, I believe he should be able to clear it on his own with that empowered charge attack, but then you're not going to heal him up. You're going to just clear the Bond of Life. So I would probably recommend running him with a healer to make sure that you're clearing the Bond of Life and healing him up enough to then get that empowered normal attack after draining his HP. You even have something like Solar Pearl, which is going to be a battle pass weapon. This can also be good. It's going to be kind of interesting though, because it's going to give crit rate. It's going to increase your burst and skill damage when using a normal attack, and it's going to increase your normal attack damage when using a skill or burst. But because Wriothesley's skill doesn't cause any damage, I believe you have to kind of fluctuate between normal attack and burst, and just kind of doing it repetitively. But if you never use your burst, you're never going to get the normal attack bonus. So I think this weapon would be a little bit harder to use. I would place this one much further down the list. Now, a weapon I wish was good on Wriothesley would be Frostbearer, because Frostbearer looks so good. It's so criminal that Frostbearer doesn't do really much of anything. Yes, it's going to get up attack, but then like this passive is just going to do like an extra instance of damage, which Wriothesley can use more of because he is cryo, but like it's really not. The Frostbearer should have been way better. Yes, you can use it. Yes, it looks phenomenal on him. It looks great on a lot of people, but it's just not that great of a weapon. Now, there's a lot of people that watch my videos and that are in my community that have Wriothesley or use Wriothesley. I think last night on the character reviews, I reviewed like 4 or 5 Wriothesleys, crazy enough. He's a great character to use if you do like the male catalyst punchiness, then he will be great. He can do reverse melts with him being the cryo onto the pyro, or he can be a driver for Zhang Ling to get forward melt, meaning that he is going to apply his cryo first before Zhang Ling's Pyronado comes around and hits the enemy, so that way she can get the melt reaction. So you can use him and Zhang Ling in a couple of different ways depending on your timing, but he can be a very, very good kind of melt driver and a freeze driver as well. Maybe it'd be funny to see like him, Sit Lolly, Farina, and maybe like Jean or something like that. Maybe that could be interesting, put him in a freeze team. I don't know, that'd be funny. If I had him, I'd probably try that team just to try it out. That is going to be it for this video. Kuki has green hair, I have pink hair, and I will see you in the next one.